this project workflow webinar today. If you guys can't hear me, let me know. As we go through this project workflow webinar, I will be asking if you have questions during there's a chat Q&A or something like that at the top where I can see your questions, which you can't see, but I'll stop and ask you guys if there's questions during the big show after each section. So, you know, I would hope a lot of you guys, I mean, there's quite a few of here today are project managers. And sometimes I know when we teach each one of these sections to you as a trainer, and there's I think 13 of us here that work as trainers, we teach you bits and pieces. Like here's your, you know, we're doing projects today and we're doing estimates today and we're doing, you know, and each thing is broken down, but sometimes it's really hard to get the whole picture of like, where is this going? Why are we doing this? And so the project workflow is going to really take us step by step to see, you know, where do I start and what should be my focus as a project manager and how do I overcome some of these obstacles? So as you can see today's agenda on my screen already, I want to talk first just quickly about, you know, we're going to go through the entire project from pretty much start to finish, but prior to the project, your projects should probably definitely coming in one of three ways, which is either, you know, somebody's called you or emailed, or you might have a web to lead. They're coming like that, or you're getting basically a project request form. For some of my clients that are internal marketing agencies, they may have a project request form coming in to say, I need a new project, or some of our clients use sales, and that will start over on the sales CRM side, maybe an opportunity that turns into a project. So I'm starting this with, hey, we know we have a project and we need to set up for success and get the ball rolling. So I'm going to be taking you through the process, and I might be referring back to my notes, which I have today, to how do we do this. And I'm not going over the setup of estimates. I'm going to assume that you have, not estimates, templates. I'm going to assume that you have templates in your system, and I'm going to start with opening up a project and showing you, setting up for success, because there is a systematic way that we would believe that you should have already. And every one of you guys is different. I mean, I have small companies with just 3, I have huge companies with 1,000, and everything in between. And it's not always going to be successful to tell you there's just one great way to do it. We do have Workamajig ways, but there's, going to be a lot of flexibility in how we set things up. So I'm going to take you over to my screen. After this call, housekeeping, usually it takes a week or 2 for them to upload this call into the YouTube. Now we're on YouTube, woohoo, area from the support guide. So just note, if you need it before then, maybe shoot an email to Workamajig and we might be able to get it for you if you need it to pass on to all your friends and family, right? All right. So, oh, that's the wrong browser. How about I use the right browser? Let's start off with this. Okay. All right. So, you have several choices when you start or you get a new project. The first thing you should be doing is setting it up. And of course, we have 2 places or 3 places we can set it up. I can come over here and start a project. A lot of people just like to come to Project Manager, go to their projects and start a project. So for today, I'm just going to do it from here. And then we're going to go, like I said, through the process of what things are important through the actual setup. And the first thing what we're going to do, obviously, is to add a new project. Your client should be in the system. If this is a brand new client, somebody needs to enter the client into the system first. To make things simple today, we're going to choose Alice because she always shows up at the top of my page. And we're going to have a tea party. All right. So here's a little trick. Okay, if you guys have project numbers, great. You should be using a template to copy from. But I want to let you know, all of your templates, when you open this up, will be showing on here. But some of my clients or some clients will say, well, I don't want to use a template. Actually, I made this great project and switched up my template and did something awesome. I want to use that project. Can I pull that in? Yes, but you don't see, watch how this like changes magically. As soon as I hit show more, instead of copy from, this extra field comes up. And you can say, yeah, I want to copy from another project, which is probably huge for most of you guys, because every single one of your projects, you'd have to know the name and you can pick that name. And then you will pull in the schedule from another project that you've already set up. So a lot of times people don't note that at first that, well, how did you get to this? There's this show more and show less key on here. And so it doesn't show that, and it always is like, unless you have the show more on. So why did that now show copy? Oh, because I left it on project. I want to do template. So for today's demonstration, I've already picked the good template out, and let me see what it's called, the print. It's a print collateral. So in the back end, when you guys are doing this, hopefully every 6 months, you should go through your templates and revise them and adjust them, basically to make sure that they're in line with what you guys are doing, because not always your templates are going to change over time. You may need to increase the amount of templates because you do different types of print jobs. You may change up after today's big show, you might be changing them up too. So just know after about 6 months of being at Workamajig, you should probably reevaluate the templates in the back end if you have access to them. If you do not have access to them, see an admin and maybe they can give you access, or they can show you that. Anyway, so we're putting this through. You can have a description, and you should hopefully have a due date, because that due date in there without putting one in won't really give you that timeline to go by. So if I came through here and we'll just say, I don't know how long this one is going to be, it won't let you put a due date on the weekend unless you guys are normally working on weekends, which I don't have any clients, thank goodness, are doing that. And you can tag it to a campaign. And if you have GL companies, you would have a drop down and say which GL company do you want to use, office, team, and project type. Project types are important for you guys. If you know that that's going to be a reporting field where I can pull up all of my projects by a project type. Your project status, I'm going to get more involved in this in a few minutes, but your project status will have one that it defaults into while you're building your project. And then some clients will change this right away because they know that they're going to go right into production or some other field. And then so they don't have to worry about changing it later, which actually in this case I am, because I'll probably forget. All right, so the first thing you want to do when you bring in the project is you're going to look at your project settings. And that's just, you know, am I working from project start? When my complete date? It's really just the same stuff. And I like to say most of my clients are able to go in and make sure that their billing method is correct. That's important. It usually defaults in from your client. Hey, that's great. The second thing we're going to look at is your schedule, because the first thing you do when you look at your schedule is it should, if you've done this correctly, have assigned time in here, and it should have a decent looking schedule. It should have amount of days on here, and it should have what is the service. So with all of those already in here, all you're really doing at this point is thinking about, hey, I need to put people on this job, and I need to start figuring out who could go on this job. But before we do this, this is at the point where people often struggle. And I should also mention, why is this one on here? This task will not be complete by the project. This is why you want to put project end dates in. This project ends on October 8th. I put in a due date of October 7th, and it's letting me know we're not going to get done by this time. So you have a choice. Can I come in here? This is what I would recommend is, start changing things to get to your deadline, or letting the client know, hey, we're not going to meet this deadline. Now, here's where the struggle begins for a lot of my clients is when they start coming in here and they get to certain lines and they actually come over to this area and they start changing this constraint as soon as possible. And I don't think there's any person in this room or many rooms that have not experienced moving a constraint to something other than as soon as possible and having the headache of it suddenly not working, things are moving not the correct way. So you can use this, I would use it sparingly, but what I would do instead to keep it working properly is change the duration. Don't change this, just note, oh yeah, I need to move this back a day. I'm going to change this to 4 days. The duration is the number of days that's already on this sheet. Because if I do it like that and hit save, it doesn't change the constraint off as soon as possible and do wacky things. So I always recommend using duration, and which is the same thing as changing the days in here. versus coming in and trying to change a plan complete date, or coming in here and trying to change a plan complete date. The computer will read it and change a constraint to must finish on, which will sometimes do some strange stuff to the things around it. And it does frustrate some of my clients. So try to use duration, which is the same thing as days on here, is my first hint. Secondly, if you guys are clients that are using our deliverables, a lot of people will have two separate processes, and they'll have, let's send it to internal, well, actually usually internal approvers before client approval. I don't know why those two are switched. In any case, they put two separate lines on here. When we're talking about making a good schedule, if you are using our deliverable process, there is no real reason to separate this if it's the same person. Obviously, this should be art direction. Let's just change that real quick. If it's the same person doing both the internal, like you need to send it to your internal people for review, and then you need to turn it around to the external. You can combine these, the just, review process, because that person, when you do a review process, if you remember from the deliverables, you have both the internal review and the client review. So there's no reason to set a separation on these for most clients. So I'm just giving suggestions of how you could maybe make this easier for you guys, as far as condensing some of the stuff, because there needs to be a happy medium between too many tasks and not enough tasks. And don't feel that it's necessary to use summary tasks, but I think it's a really good idea, because you can report out on each one of these items. I can get a report later for the summary task, because maybe I don't need to send every single detail to my client. I might want to just send the summary task to my client. One of my clients, and I'm going to step out of this, Alice, 1 second, had a really good idea, and I'm not going to name their names, but they used what's called the 5Ds, and that makes reporting really easy if you're consistent. And I think I used it in this one. Let me just see. One of these clients, I just want to show you if I can see it. Yes. So one of my clients uses, so I set one of these up for myself, what's called the 5Ds. So they can report out on every single one of their projects has the document, design, development, and deployment. It's just that this maybe went into the wrong space for some reason, but for the most part, I can get a report or use these same things for a project status. Wouldn't that be nice if my project status is, I automatically could see, oh yeah, we're in the development stage. And when I talk about project statuses, and I'm going to go back to that, and again, that's when I'm looking at, wouldn't it be nice to be able to look at your projects page and see all the ones that were in deployment, or all the, and then hey, I'm in this phase of the project. So that's just an idea one of my clients had. I thought it was really good, because again, consistency in which you're making your projects as similar as possible will help with the reporting values that are in there. All right, so I'm back to Tea Party. Let me go back to where we were. Okay, so we're looking at the schedule. Your first thing as a project manager is you can be, changing your days on here, changing the number of hours you think this might change. And then you need to start thinking about resourcing, or how do I get, who should be on this project? So of course you're on this project, and you might have some people that defaulted into this project, but the main goal is we need to see who's available to do this. So there's 3 ways that we can do that. Before I go into those 3 different ways that I think are the best ways to do that, if anybody has any questions that you want to put in chat, now's the time. So far, so good. I'm not seeing anything come through. Okay, all right, so let me go over. So now we're deciding who and what and when, where. Basically, we're on this step over here, setting up, we're starting our setup, but I need to find who has the time to do this, right? So a couple of ways we can do this. One, you make use of this resource manager. I think if I'm looking out and I'm starting a new project, and it's going to be a 3-week project or something, and I need to know, I need an art director, right? I think I need I don't know. I need somebody. Yeah, art direction. I'm looking at my staff schedule, and I really want to see who's available that works art direction, because I need to put them on this. So if you go to your staff schedule and you go to this options thing, I can come and say, who has the least amount of work to do? And I can go art direction, check mark it, hit done. Oh, why did that not hit done? There we go. So it sits up here. And if I hit save on here, it's going to eliminate everybody else on my staff that can't do art direction. I only want to see people that can do art direction, right? Because I'm trying to find who can I put on this job. You may, if you're in a small office, you might not need to do this. You might already know in your head. So now I'm looking at, hey, I know I'm starting this new project and I can see these are the people, how much are they utilized, who has the least amount of work to do. And I can see that Kevin Costner has absolutely nothing on his plate. So I can, well, until way back over here, but I could probably use him on my project, right? So I can, that's one person I would be like making my little note, Kevin Costner can do art direction, great. And you can similarly, do that for anything that you need to look for allocation of hours of that. So that's one way. And I think that works really well, but it only works, this is the big one, is if you guys are actually allocating hours on your projects, because otherwise you're going to get a big blank and all kinds of stuff on here. And in case you guys are wondering, this isn't the call for staff schedule, but this is because this was a holiday and I also made people work and it's over 8 hours. So don't worry about any of that jazz on there. All right. So another way that we can go ahead and find out how we can resource is I can go to my project manager today PM screen. And if you've ever looked over in your assignments area and you're down in assignments area, you can look at the current work list. One moment. There's a question I'm stopping for a moment to read from Katie. I understand changing the duration as a better way to change the due date. However, if I want to retroactively change a start date to a date that has already passed, if you try to change it to a date that's already passed for a start date, the system won't read it, I believe, anything past today. The only thing that would change the start date is if someone put the actual in prior to the, like when you're actually putting time in and you can actually retroactively put a date in prior to the date, it will put the real date in that started, but I don't believe you can schedule something to start before then. All right, let me go back to this then. Okay, so your current work list, you may be looking again for that assigned service. Like here again, let's look at art direction just to make it simple. And I want to know, I don't want to interfere with people if they have a bunch of stuff to do already that's between now and the end of the month, right? So again, I'm looking for people that are working for art direction and I can see, oh, these are the people are working and how many allocated hours are they already? Oh, Darth Vader has time. I don't know why this aren't assigned, but again, these are the people that have been assigned and I could say of those, Darth has the most time available for this. So this is another, looking at the current work list or making your own work list. So if you noticed over in mine, I had a bunch of other kind in here where people might be looking at, and I guess we'll get over these assignments due today. So let me just check that's number of days for a task period. Oh, it was the due but not done. Not that we need to talk about this one today, but just to note that if you are looking to see why your tasks aren't done or who's not doing them, just doing a quick search of the due but not done will give you a listing on that. All right. So the third way that I would suggest, so again, the assignments over here are going to say, give you an idea of like who's on assignments already, who's available for assignments, how much work they have, and you may be pulling it by person. You can be pulling it different ways, and we can help you at Workamajig to make lists of different things the way you want to see it, because you may not know that you can make a drop down for your assignments. Again, what's on that current work list, and I can be pulling it by a certain, here, let me clear this off. If I only wanted to see, what was on the plate of myself, then I'm looking at what, you might not have this filter. We can help you build these things to be able to see what's on people's plate, basically to know what you should be resourcing. All right, third way. And may or may not be, as not everybody has assignment management, but this is another way to see what's on people's plate. Again, here's my whole staff. Okay, that's not my whole staff. Ugh. Filter options. I must have already put a filter on here. I did. Same exact thing as the one I was going to say earlier is, hey, if I want to see who works this service, there's those same 4 people, and what do they have on their plate for this week? So I know not just this isn't just their art, this is just their art and creative design. If I needed to see how much they're allocated for everything, I can come over here and then filter option and just take, these will be check mark myself, and I already forgot Keanu Reeves and Darth Vader or something, and just look at those 3 people, not putting the service in, because maybe I need to see, maybe they do multiple services, right? So now I want to see all of their hours, not just their service hours. So then I'm looking at, oh, he is overbooked, or he has too much. I'm definitely not going to give him on here, right? And then again, we've already decided that Kevin Costner isn't even listed on here because he has no work to do and he needs some jobs. So we're going to pick him. So again, coming to this page and making use of, by filtering it to see what you need on your project is a super good way to be able to decide who should be on my project. So now we're going to go to report 10. Time flies, right? We go back to T-Party. Yeah. You're going to your team setting, and now you're deciding, oh, we already put some people in here. That's cool. Which people do I need on it for which jobs? So you're creating that from your project team, from your staff, or you're adding your contacts, client contacts, but I'm keeping with the staff right now. And then I'm just deciding, I have different companies, but here's all my people that I know that could work on this job, which I already added them. But if you needed to add more, you just select them, right? All right. And then when you want to add different services, you can just click on the person and give them some jobs and say, okay, this is what you're going to be doing on this job. And if you go, I'm sure you all know this by now, when you've got that all set, you're just going to push it to the schedule and it's going to move right over to there. And then you check your schedule. And 95% of the time I miss some stuff, right? Because I forgot, oh yeah, I need this. So it makes it pretty easy then to just click on the item to say who's going to do that job. So you would go through this process until you get everybody filled in, which I'm not going to take the time to do that, or we won't get through this call. I will let you know, and you could pull in, you'll see usually actual hours and allocator hours, and some people add in estimate hours. Right now we have not done an estimate, so it's 0. Why would you want to pull this in? Is because some people do want to look at the difference between what did I estimate and they don't always equal what they allocated, meaning they've made a change later to the project after they created an estimate, and this number would be different. I do 100% say that you should make an estimate because that's your budget for your project, and it's so simple to do. There's no reason not to, even if you aren't billing an estimate, which is a fixed fee, even if you're doing time and materials, even if you're not giving it to a client, you still want to make an estimate because you want to track that and as a budget item. So at this point, okay, we're not starting the project yet. We're still building the project. I'm just going to take you out here, and then so I can show you, I'll say that schedule's good, the estimate. Even if you don't put any expenses on this, task and service is normal. All you have to do is 2 clicks, really. It's looking at the labor and then pulling it in from the schedule. Do you want to pull it in from the schedule? Yes. And now here's those 29 hours. Now what happens, and some people, and somebody needs to approve this and all that jazz, and hopefully you guys know how to do that part. However, the point of this is now we have an estimate that becomes your budget for the project. But if in the schedule now, you'll see 29 matches 29 because I have an approved estimate for this much. Again, how did I get this field in here? In case you're interested, it's in you need to have system settings, and then you would go to the edit columns, and the estimate hours are here if you're interested in putting it in there, so you can also track that at an easy glance. Add it in there and move it to where you want. But the point is, if I came in here now and I added something new to this project, new task, whatever that is, and I added this in for, assigned it to Caesar for some brand consulting for 10 more hours. Oops. So if something's added later, Now you'll notice your estimate's still at 29, your allocated's at 39, and then obviously we didn't track any time to this yet, but a lot of clients, and we do suggest that these two numbers should be the same, but sometimes people will add other tasks on. Then you have that decision. Do I need to make a change order at this point for these other hours and send my client a bill for these extra 10 hours? Maybe you've gotten through the clients asking for a third round of revision you hadn't accounted for, and you need to throw some more hours on it, and you're, by goodness, you are going to charge them for that. If you decided, yeah, I do want to charge it to my client, great. It's super simple. You are able to put in an estimate, but it's just one total, not separated out by task. Are you able to do it without putting in for task? We have 10 hours to spend on the job and I don't care who spends it. Yes, you can just do, well, it won't match the tasks that you have on here unless you want to, but you can put that all in one. Let me show you that right now, actually. So the question is, can I just have one thing and we don't really care what it is? We just want to track it, make a budget without going all through this hoopla to make a budget, right? So yes, you can. And so I'll show you that when I show you this little trick. If you haven't already done this, we go back to the estimates. We have this approved estimate. We want to make a change order, which I'll also, this will kind of be in the line this. You have the option to do by service only or task or person, which you could flip over if you needed to. But even if I just do this change order for this one labor, and if I didn't want to just come through and pull, just remember, you could just use, but you would still need to use a service. So that's the only thing is if you just want to do one lump sum and not really care where it goes to, you can put your hours and rate and service in just one area by just clicking on the boxes. If I'm doing a true change order so that it reflects the same amount on both, you again are going to pull from schedule, but it's only going to pull that, hopefully. Why did that not come through? I was like, there it is. Okay, those 10 extra hours. So now I would have two, if I approve this, a change order for the 13 extra 10 hours that I put on there if I wanted to. So if I look at the schedule now, they should match again. Estimate 39, allocated 39. Again, it doesn't have to match. If you're throwing in some freebie hours or something and you don't really need to see it, you're still going to get your actuals and you're still going to get reporting based on that later. All right, so let me just check what am I supposed to talk about? Once you figure. Okay, that was page 1. If you have any questions, I'll look at them in 1 second. Okay, I'm going to answer this question, and then I'll get back to the show. Can you manually change the allocated hours in the schedule, even if it does not match up with the estimate? Yes, as the project goes on, yes. So yes, you can, absolutely. So as you're going through this project and you want to come back in here, as long as you have the security right, there's no problem with me saying, hey, I want to do 5 hours instead of a half hour. But again, now look exactly what happens. Now my allocated hours are again off because I've changed them. But at any time you want to come through this project as a project manager and make your allocated hours different, that's absolutely fine. Which brings me to the next thing. That was a good question. Oh, wait, there's one more question. Can you manually change? Okay, that was the same. Yes. Answer live. Why does it always ask me this? I'm not very good with the answering questions things because they turn up in these strange places. So just excuse me. All right. So once you get your schedule set and you're like, yes, we're ready to start this project. I don't know that any of you know this, but in this more key is something very important and it's called set baseline. And man, I cannot remember to set this all the time. I almost wish it was automatic, but if you do this, what does that do? You'll notice I put, again, these are columns you can add. All of these columns right now are set with these numbers. And why do I want to do this? This is because at the end of the project, there is a postmortem report that we can show what I'm going to show you to be able to look back and say, when I started this project, these are the dates we expected this to go. Now, during the project, as most of you know, things are going to change. And I had, like earlier, and I recommended this to be, I can say I'm changing this to 5 days, and now it's going to change the whole rest of the project. I'm probably going to be late, yes, but I'm still looking at this baseline on here. for the original dates I set. And then that's going to be, even though it's changed on here, it's going to look back at this project and tell me, was I ahead of schedule, on schedule, behind schedule at the end? So the only way to set these is if you go to your more key when you're ready and hit set baseline. If you don't do that, you'll not see that report, won't be very useful for you. Now, when you're ready to start the project and you have this in, I like to come to this task and I like to notify users, and that shoots out an email to each user on here. Some people say they just want to do it for the first person. That's fine too. But if you get triggered emails, great. If it's too many emails for people, it just tells them, hey, you've been assigned on this new project. So that's notify users will go to each and every person, just one email per. Then I like to change it into the status, which I already did, making sure it's in the production status for people to start working on the project. All right, so what is I going to talk about? Is there any other questions at this point? Because I need to. One second. I just want. So there's two different. I don't see any questions. So there's really two different types of. There's three different types, I guess you say. We're on Work at Baby over now, just so you guys know. You know, here's my estimating budgeting. Oh, and I didn't really show it to you, but there's a budget now and it's going to track, and there's going to be a report on that later. Once we get into working it, there's going to be a couple different kinds of methods that people use. They're going to be like people that are just wild and free. They're not really paying attention and they're expecting their people to do it themselves. And that's great. I wish all of employees could just be, you know, do it themselves. And you don't need to watch every step. Then there's going to be the more of the micromanager, where you have a larger company and you're going to need to make sure all of those new employees are going to be able to track their time and know what they're doing. Those are more of the none that that's bad, but you know, hopefully you're somewhere in between the two. So how do I track what's going on? Again, let's go back to the project. It's this one, yes. Oh, there we are. So I'm tracking my projects by one, looking at the overall views from here. You're tracking, you know, are my tasks getting done on time? Well, this is going to tell me if my tasks are behind or not. Do I need to go into this and see that it's red? Do I need to make changes to this at this point? Great, that's very easy. If my employees are having issues with doing their jobs, there's two things. I think most of my companies now have incorporated, at least the ones I work with, are incorporating, you know, if I'm on this line for senior copywriting, a lot of my clients are now using what's called to-dos. And that's giving additional items for people to work inside. And again, this has to be turned on where they can say, hey, project schedule created, did you do these things, and assign it to a person, and they'll get it on their task card to be more detailed. Again, that's a little bit more micromanaging, but a lot of clients have their employees need that kind of level. Other clients are just like, I need to follow up, and I'll get to your question in a second. Maybe I don't need to actually assign something, but you have that conversation. And everybody should be starting conversations. If I start a conversation from the line, you'll notice it will go to you know, the person that's assigned to that task. If I just want to do a general one, you know, to everybody, you know, I can do a shout out to everybody. You're using your conversations in here. I think using conversations is more relaxed way of using, hey, I just need to follow up with you. Did you do this? What's stopping you whenever you're going to get fired? Whatever you want to say there, right? But that's a more relaxed way is using our conversations, and it stays with the project and it can be made private. Somebody wants to know, somebody has to make me do something I do like doing. They want to know how to use cross-project predecessors. Yes, I will do, John, I will answer that in a second because somebody wrote an easy one. Are the conversations tied to a specific task? If you want to, I think you have the ability to tie it to a task specific, like you said, if I'm on a specific one, I'm tying it to the task. And then you might have types, not everybody has that, but you can tie it to a task. Cross-project predecessors, a lot of fun. No, not really. You've got to really know what you're doing when you start talking about cross-project predecessors. Try to say that 3 times fast. Because they're on, let's see, Let's go into the schedule once again, and we'll show how that works. So if usually it's something like at the end or the beginning, that's one project is commingled with another project on here. And I'm not sure if I've set up my cross-project predecessor and in actual, I can never even remember where they are. Okay, predecessors. Insert. All right, so if you have an area, so you find the line. Okay, this is how cross-project predecessors work. You find the line. It does have to be turned on in your transaction preferences to be able to do this. Some companies don't allow it. So it will, obviously you have your regular predecessor, it shows up on here, but you would be talking about inserting a row and saying, hey, I have another, I probably wouldn't need to use lag on it, but I have another project out there that's related to this. And when it gets to that task, I need to put a predecessor, so that is in conjunction with this line. So you need to be able to find it. Where did I go to do this cross project? It's under actuals, under the pen, then you go to actuals, then you scroll down. The first one is always in there. That's the one that you already have in here. Now you're looking at what does it connect itself to? So it's kind of difficult to explain, but it's going to trigger Discover Research when it gets to number 6. When it gets to celebration meeting on here, it's going to trigger it to go to Discovery Research, so that job also. So you have 2 predecessors on this now. And I think it shows, once I do that, where's my predecessors? Doesn't it show? Oh, it should show both predecessors on here. Move this over. Yeah. So if as long as you have your predecessors moved out enough, you can see that you have 2, this one connecting to this one and the regular 12 connecting to this one, which is kind of a interesting one. Okay, so conversations are tied and the cross-project predecessor. So if you need more help with that, it's, again, you do have to have it turned on to use it. If you guys are interested, I don't have very many people that use it. Usually it's more of a campaign, which we're not talking about today, but usually a campaign has one project tied to another project, tied to another project in a row. And that's when I usually see the cross-project predecessors working. But that was a good question. All right, now I forgot where I was at. All right, so there's different methods of seeing where are we at with these projects, who's behind, and that's when you're looking at the projects themselves, or you're looking at this project manager today PM page, which we already went through earlier today, and seeing, oh, you can be, looking at your top area is going to be, what's my assignments due but not done, which is lets you view it, but it doesn't let you do anything. Like this might not be very helpful. I think it's better to go into the, again, assignments, start looking at the due but not done from here and pulling it up for the assigned service or the assigned staff person, or we can do more filters and modify this for a certain project, what's due but not done. Or what I also like to look at from a overall perspective, and hopefully you guys have used this before, is I am a big proponent of people using the traffic calendar to make due dates for projects in addition to assignments. You're going to look at going into your calendar, and then it's really nice if I have, I was like waiting, I was like, I did this earlier. These are all my deadlines. So if you want to use our calendars to point out when is your projects due, or when even, I didn't do assignments, but you can have that, when are the assignments due for the projects. Super easy to add, super easy to do. I believe assignments and traffic assignments and resourcing is another one of our webinars that will teach you how to do this, because then I can be like, oh yeah, this project is due on the 22nd, and I can kind of review it on here, which I absolutely love. But you could also do this all the way down to the assignment level and have everybody's assignments that are due when, and then I can click onto it from there and see, am I behind? When was it due? What are people doing on that also? Okay, so where am I at now? So really you're going to have different types of project management. And one of the things that I talked about earlier a few minutes ago is making those statuses useful to you. So again, we're kind of right here on here, and I'm going to talk about this in a second, but these statuses, making statuses work for you. As a project manager, I talked about earlier, being able to use this page to your advantage to know where we are at projects is maybe going to take you back to making some changes to your current project statuses. As you saw in here, I put in deploy as one of them, so I know that I'm in that area. And I can make these to my advantage. I can take this project screen, and this is super helpful too. I can go to my display options, and then instead of they're automatically grouped by client, and I almost tell you nobody ever changes this, but if I said I want to group it by my project status of my projects that I'm on, I can see all the ones that are in deploy, all the ones that are in the design phase. Like I think of these as phases, what's in discovery phase, what's in production phase, make these work for you. And then it kind of is a shout out to what should I be at? I know these are in design, what's behind in design for that project status. So if you guys decide you want to change your project statuses, that is a back end thing. And I will take you just fairly quickly over to that area. So you know, if you do want to make it work for you better. In your global list is those project status codes. You can have as many as you want. And if they're active and stuff. So like if I need to have a whole bunch of statuses and I need to keep on top of where am I at in a project, I can pull a report out and say, I need to see all the projects that are in the development stage. And then I need to see all of the tasks that are behind. Well, that will work if you have a project status code that's configured on there. So just so you know, it's not too late to change project status codes in your back end if you feel like you want to expand over. I know we set you up with like just like 5, which are like the ones that are in here and pending or something like that. But you know, make it work for you. That's my suggestion, because again, looking at the big picture and the overall picture is kind of your job. All right, I'm going to go over some time entry headaches. I can tell you from working here a long time that one of the biggest obstacles of not seeing the project correctly is people are coming in as project managers and they're having to close out tasks because time entry, people do their creatives today page, and your person may be making time entries very simply. I mean, this is easy peasy. Nobody should have a problem with it. But what they're not doing is they're not closing. That was a bad one, but they're not actually closing out the tasks. They're doing a time entry, but they're not checking this. And why are they not checking this? I can tell you the number one reason I hear, they're like, my employees are afraid to use the I'm done with this task because they're afraid that they need to get back into it later and add more time. They're not sure when it's ended. And what does it create? A mess of things for you as a project manager to know, is this really done? Is this not really done? Do I need to check? Do I need to send an email to them? You know, this is a scary button, right, for your employees to say, I'm done with this, because is anything really ever done? Not laundry, I can tell you that. But getting this used to, because you want to emphasize for time entry, this is important to do. And there is the ability, you're done with this task, to bring it back to life after you've done this task and you've taken it off your plate. You can still get back to it. It's going to show up, you know, under your today's page. They're able to add more time to it later. After they've closed it out for that task, you can still add time to it. So don't have them be afraid that this is what we don't want in Workamajig. I don't want managers to have to be, oh, I was like, where's all my projects? Oh, hold on one second. We want to change it back to client. I was like, where's the project I was working on? What we don't want you to do as a project manager as much as possible is coming over here and changing these to, oh yeah, he did this, right? You shouldn't have to do that for your employees. And then they should be doing it, and this should be updating automatically for best practice. So it is a headache to get a Workamajig sometimes aligned with putting in their time. So the easiest thing, obviously, to break down the process is just making sure they're assigned to a task, making sure that their page is set up correctly. The easiest way to do that, you know, is, you know, work with your employees one-to-one and just making sure that they understand it's not the end of the world. If they do add a time and close it out, you'll still be able to add time to it through your regular time through the day. Or if they're using, some of my clients now are using the, what is it, timesheet, just going directly to the timesheet. I will give you one little hint on the timesheets. Another thing people do tell me that they can't remember during the day what they've been working on in that more key. I think I've talked about this on my last call, and those, I think it's display options. Default projects touch today. If this is on, that's why I have 3 things already in here with no time entries yet. That will automatically show up because I've been in these projects today. So that kind of gives people a reminder if this is on to say, oh yeah, I worked on these projects. So if they're not all of my clients use task cards. Some of them don't work that way, which is okay. They work this way, and then they come in and then they can just manually add the hours that they worked at the end, during the day. Oops, needs a task, whatever that task may be. All right, so just note that's in the more, and I do suggest that for some people. So that's really all I have to say about that. Oh, task reminder. So people aren't doing tasks. One last thing I lied. This is really important. If you have the admin rights, I think task reminders that go to their email that they haven't completed their tasks or they're coming due, need to work on this, instead of you triggering an email and having to go through the, each one, let the system do it for you. In your employee record, if you have access to this, if you don't, talk to someone who does, you have those notifications, and down at the bottom is task reminders. And when you open this up, do you only want, a task reminders on the next 7 days? Maybe you want to give them a 3-day notice. Maybe you need to start reminding 14 days. So then they get a reminder every day for the 14 days that they have something due. They might get a whole bunch of these, right? So that's going to be reminders for tasks. So that's at the bottom, and you can set that up for each employee's individually. And they have an option. Is it only your assigned task or task active projects? You have some options here of how you want those to be sent versus you doing that, which is sometimes a pain. All right, so we talked about that, and now we're on, let me check where I'm at now. All right, time entry, task reminder, pretty much done with that. And I'm going to go over the next section, which is time entry. Nothing ever goes as planned. The reason I say that is because most of my clients have told me this. So again, we actually already went over some of this. The do but not done report we already talked about, how the changing the statuses affects the resourcing. Okay, this is important because this is another thing. It makes your employees look like they have more work than they actually do sometimes. Because what's happening, and I see this a lot, is people are like, oh, we've pushed this project off. We're not working on this project right now, but they leave it in the production or something that's on their people's plate. If you're temporarily not working on a project, if this is in production still and tasks aren't complete or whatever, when this is in production and things aren't complete, but you know that you're not working on it, it's going to be on your do but not done. It's going to be looking like that person's resourced out. So it's really important, like even for temporary basis, that you change it into something that says, I'm on hold. I don't need those tasks to be showing up for those employees. It takes it off their plate. It takes it off when I'm resourcing. It takes me off of the staff schedule. That project's tasks that are on there, it's going to take it off this schedule and the overnight update so that you have a realistic view of what somebody has to do. So just baking an update to something on there is helpful. Can employees change their own email task reminders, or does admin need to do it? I'm pretty sure most employees cannot get to that page at all. So this employees page, and the reason that's reserved, so no, it's unless you have admin rights. The reason not employees even have access to their own record to pick these things typically is because when we get to accounting, it has your stuff that you don't want everybody to see, which is your hourly or billable rates that are in here. So it's locked down for people that are usually Workamajig administrators, but good question. No. Oh, but while we're in here, that was one more thing. Okay, so how often do people leave your company? What do you do with those jobs? Like, you don't want them to sit there on some guy that you fired last week, right? So again, this has to you have to have employee admin rights. But one thing that we do have that's so simple is I can come over here and offboard, and I can take all of those. Hey, somebody just got to another job. I decided to offboard, and I can check all, and everything, all the tasks, all the time approver, everything is going to go to somebody else. Or if I don't want to check all, I can just, have one person do this, and then I can pick a different person for something else. But offboarding is pretty easy because like I'm on all these projects, and if I leave the company tomorrow, I don't want to see, like, you're going to eventually, somebody's going to come through here and make them inactive. And then those tasks are going to screw up everything on your projects. You're going to sit there and you're going to wonder why. And then it takes a lot longer. I mean, do it all at once. Why would you come through here, go to the project, go to the schedule, be like, oh yeah, I forgot Kevin Costner got axed last week. Come in here and change it to George Foreman. You know, that takes a lot longer. I would definitely suggest doing the offboarding process if you have people coming and going off of your projects. In addition, let me see. That was the do but not done security rights. I'm just checking my notes. Please record for reassigning. In addition, if you are a person that needs to reassign because and they're not being offboarded, as far as you're not like completely taking them away and they just have certain assignments they need to be off of, pulling up those assignments of either a current work list or something else on here. Oh, that's just for me here. Let me just go through here. Sorry, I'll go through that. Note that you can always reassign from your list. So if I come through here and I need to reassign the selected task to another person, very simple to do it in mass. So just note any of the listing screens particular, not from those top ones where I was looking at over here, they don't let you do anything, but anything that's an assignment level, do not done, whatever, you know, any of these reports over here, and I know this person's behind, I'm able to come in here and just take a group and reassign them to someone else or update them. So again, make use of these shortcuts over here, especially, you know, if they are task complete dates and I need to do that all at once, I can. Most of the time I see people using this, I have a whole bunch of projects and my projects listing needs to be updated. And I don't want to go through each one of my projects and do it. Okay, well, fine. Let's go over here, click search. And I know that these need to update the project fields. Oh, no. It's project status. This is what I was going to talk about. Is like at the end of the project, maybe I forgot to change these out of the status that they are in. I can come over here and change them in mass to completed, which brings me to the last part of this area, and that's really the aftermath, which is really actually the most important part. And I hate to speed through this, so this might go a little bit over, which is why we, you know, evaluating the productivity. So this is really, as the project doesn't go as planned, that really the ending to that is just making sure that you can change what you need to change when things don't go as planned. You're going back into the projects, you're making the updates as a project manager, and you're using these like shortcuts to get to the items to change them. All right, so the last part, do but not done report, employee leaves, the aftermath. This is really important because that's the whole point of your job, right? Like we need to look back as a project manager and say, what happened bad? What can we change for next time? Where did this go wrong, right? So we have reports to do that. And evaluating the project after the fact, or looking at project budget analysis, or were we profitable, is an important item. So I'm going to go through what I would say are the most important things to look at, which is all of you should have availability to go to everyone. This is kind of after the project report center. And that first thing I told you earlier today was the postmortem report. So that's a report that I can, you can find in our help guide. Is my help guide open? Yeah, we have a help guide, as you guys know. And if you look in, we have pre-made custom reports. If you like type in, I think I typed in reports or something like that. We have some that are already here that you can import, or I'd be happy to import if you guys shoot an email over and import any of these for you. But this post-mortem report for you guys will give you the ideas of what happened in that project. So how does this work? It will be in your other reports, and once you add it, post-mortem, and that's not how you spell post. I had 3 in here. I think I have several. Let me look at this one, post-mortem schedule detail. Okay, so what does this report do? Let's look at project client. let me look at. This one. Not baseline. All right. So we're going to pull this report. It will tell you the project. It will tell you how much labor you budgeted for it. It will tell you your actuals, and then it will tell you your results. Were you on target, under target, over target? It will tell you again your, why do I have this in? Oh, this was the amount. I'm sorry, your actual labor. These are the hours. How about I get this right? I was like, what? And then you can look on here and it will tell you if you did not set that baseline at the beginning of the project, you're not going to get all the full results that you need. So it will say no baseline. If you did, it will tell you if it was completed on time. And why didn't I go into Alice? Let me go into Alice once again. Let's go into project client name equal Alice. I think that was the one I wanted to show you guys. Search. There. All right. This is the one I wanted to show you. Sorry about that. So if you set that, again, you may get something like this was completed. It's looking at the who did it. It's looking at the task name. How much was I over? You know, how many actual hours were you over? When was it done? And was it? So this report is something that you can put in your system to be able to review back. And it's really taking a look at, you should be looking at like, why is production outside services always late, you know, or something like that. You know, you're looking at the details of the project and where it went wrong. And then you're looking back at, hey, I noticed that this is happening every single time I do this. Maybe I need to go back to the template and change it. Like this is always taking too long, whatever. Okay, that's one report. Then we only got two more reports I want to show you guys. And I do have another question, I think, on here. Can you add notes in the report if you want to discuss the reasons why you might have hit or not hit deadlines? That's a good question. Oh, postmortem report. Let me go back to that. It says, can I make notes in this report if I want to go back and look at it? I don't think you can put notes in the itself until you export it into Excel, but let me check. Postmortem. I have some postmortem my project type. I'll just pull this one. So I don't know that we can put into a report. I'm just checking to see if that, so you don't want to do this yourself. That's why we made it. These are custom. You don't want to do that. Sometimes we have a field that we can actually write in, and I'm not sure this one does, which would be something like task status comments. Well, let me do that. Let's see. Mesmerize. That's a new word for me. No, but if I did a print into an Excel, save, open. Now that I put that comment on there, I should just be able to write in that column. Where's that column? Down here. Yeah. So then you can type your things in there. So you'd have to export it. We do have task status comments. This comes from the projects themselves. So this is a column that you could have already had. But if you want to make some kind of your own column, I would export it and then put your notes in here, and then you would have it in there. So that was a good question because I haven't had that question before. I'm gonna delete that out, go back to this. Okay, almost done. Two more things or three more things. Really, there's two other reports that are super important that a lot of people don't take the time or understand to look at. And one is called the project budget analysis report. It's given to you as a regular old report. And if I look at this report, I can look at it and by project for one project. And then I have a bunch of the different, how do I want to look at this? But I just want to show you, you can make your own layouts. And then when you run this report, wait for it. It's coming. Again, everybody's idea of what a project profitability comes in a little bit differently. So this particular one, we are looking at what I had written down contract amount. Look, of course, it will tell you what most of these columns are if it needs explanation. Revenue needs a big explanation. Anyways, contract amount to me, this is, I had written that on there, but it's really just your approved estimate amount. So an estimate that was approved. Your revenue is the amount that you billed for. here's your cost and here's your gross profit, right? From, it's just subtracting the 1480 from the 300, yeah, 1180. I was like, how's my math going? These two columns equal a gross profit. Now, your idea of what a gross profit might be, it might be different. Now, this client, if you look over here, you'll see net profit. And if you have access to labor net, which is internal amount, you will get a net profit. What did I really make after we took out the internal employee expense cost? So that will tell me on here the actual employee. It comes from your employee record for the internal cost. So when you look at this report, it's going to be a little bit different when you look at a net profit. Notice that says 530, and I'm going to take you to another report. That's the actual amount based on the employee record for the hours that they worked. And I was the only person who worked on this project. So that's project. And again, we can modify this. You can make up your own captions. You can have your trainer. I'm like, what do I do for a living? Your trainer can help you build one that will make sense to you, because again, not everybody's idea of what gross profits are. Sometimes they tweak it because they don't take out the cost, and I take out my inside cost, but not my outside cost. So these formulas may be something you may need help with. This is just one example, and again, this will already be in your system, like a basic one, and then you can make this as many as you want on here, and pull it, like I have a bunch, and then you have a pull down is what kind do you want to do. I like that one. The last report. So instead of looking at this project budget report, the financial report, that's a very different. But if I pull this thing for a project profit and loss report for a single range, I always don't want to do this. So you can decide on what you want to do on here. I want to do fiscal year to date for this project, and that was Hawaiian pizza. So I want to show you the side by side, well, not side by side, but what would this do? I'm putting all allocate overhead by none on this report, but a lot of people use labor or hours, but I want you to see it as close as possible to what that was as the other report. And then of course, this all tells you how to run that, but now you're getting this report. And if I look at this report with some of the same figures, but you're going to be looking at the inside, instead of it coming from the employee on this, it's coming from your service, what you put as the service, which should be a weighted average. So when it's pulling this labor out to give me what my net profit is, and see the other one was 530 and this one's 730, it's because on here, it's looking at like creative direction. And I'll answer your question for a second. It's looking at the actual item of creative direction. So here's what the thing is. So the big thing on this is that report directly pulls from what you have in your system setup under billing options. If you go down to your billing options under your service, and you should all have this filled in. If you don't, you're not going to get good reporting. Open up any one of these things if you have access to this, and it's looking at this hourly cost. So instead of pulling the report from the employee record and looking at what the employee's hourly cost is, this is kind of what should be your combined hourly cost, because you might have 3 different people that worked on a project. They're all doing the same thing, but they all have different internal costs. Just make this the average in here. So the project profit and loss pulls from here. The other report, the project budget analysis report, pulls from the employee record from the field under accounting here. So it takes the actual. So just so you know, you're going to get maybe different figures with different reports based on where you're getting the information pulled for. And if you're not sure, always ask us and we can try and find it if we're smart enough. Let me look at these next questions on here. Where do you find the postmortem report? That was, if I should have gone over that a little bit better. We have support.workamajig.com. That will bring you to our main page. I typed in post mortem, except I could never spell it right. I think I typed in, and then I went to, I don't know. That was, I thought maybe I need to, maybe post, sorry guys, postmortem. Importing customer, if you type the whole word in, importing custom reports, you'll click on that. You'll go down to the bottom And if you are familiar with importing, you're going to just click on this and it's going to make it a CSV file. And then you're going to go to the import. Like you'll click on this, then you'll go back to your system. If you have this, you'll go to import data. You'll click the word view. This is a good question. You'll find that CSV file, which I don't have that particular one right now. You'll click on the CVS, hit display file, and then import it. And then you'll find it after you do that. After you'll go to your Everyone Report Center, and it's going to be in your other reports. It will land in there and it will say postmortem report. If you need help doing that, I will be more than happy to send something in to support@workamajig.com and say that you need help with that. I'll be more than happy to help you with that. Question, are you able to put in oh no. Oh, question from Kate Globe. Does Workamajig offer training classes? Of course we do. That's what we do all day long. That's my whole job. That's what I get paid for, the big bucks. No, not really. But yes, if you need more additional training after this, and I have one more thing to show you guys, and then I'll let you go. I know it's a little late. If you need more training, you reach out to training@workamajig.com and say, hey, I want more training on whatever subject it is. And you each have your own person that you work with, and they'll set up a time. It could be 30 minutes. I did a call today in 15 minutes. It could be an hour. It could be for one person. It could be a couple of people. We do ongoing training. Like, for example, like a lot of people are like, we've gone through our main training, and then later on, we really want to come back and talk about campaigns, right? We didn't get any training on campaigns. I don't really know what they are. Hey, we'll set up a call with you. It's free. It's all good. We're happy to help train you at any time. Just don't make it abusive, meaning like don't ask us to train you every day on everything, right? But a few more calls isn't going to kill anybody. So yes, absolutely ongoing training on there. Okay, the very last thing, clean up from your projects. When you are done with your projects, I just want to, this is more of a reminder than anything else. I'm done with this project. People did not finish, you know, we quit this project or whatever. You do want to come through here and complete all of the tasks before you set it into a different, like you want to close out this project properly. You don't want to see these hanging out here because you don't want them to go on any reports that say, I still need to do these jobs. So you want to get everything 100% complete. Then you want to go into changing it from production again to a completed or whatever it should be. And then you want to go to your project settings, your accounting, is that it? And you want to make sure this box is closed. Before you do that, a lot of my clients, just so you know, they have like all these files they've had. Well, I have no files in this one, but they sometimes clean up and get rid of old files that they don't need. And they just condense it to the final copy before that. That condenses, makes you have, because you do have a limited amount of space, and Workamajig is 20 gigs per person. But you know, you might want to do some cleanup there. And before, you want to make sure that the billing's done. I didn't really talk about the handoff to the billing. Some people they have a different process of how, when this gets billed, if you guys are billers. I didn't have time to talk about that today, but that does also, a lot of my project managers have to, you know, at some point do the billing or pass this to someone. And that is done either by, maybe I can set that in a project status that says billing, or I can send an email, conversation to the biller when it needs to be done, or they're using in the project settings, I think it's in billing options, they're using billing statuses to let the biller know, hey, I'm ready for my billing, and you can set these special for you guys so I can have the billers know when to do that. And that's the last thing I have. Let me just check my Q&A and then I will shut up. Are you able to change a status to complete if there are incomplete tasks? Yes, that was, the system will not throw you an error. You can still set it to complete with it. Any of these, let's just say this has incomplete tasks on the schedule. Even if I just set the project, like half of these are incomplete on here probably. Oh wait, down here, I thought these were, yeah. All these are incomplete still. I can still change the status to complete right here, or where, you know, it doesn't hurt anything, it doesn't throw you an error. The reason you want to do that is actually because if you look at your project manager, I think it's PM dashboard, I always get these two mixed up. You want these to be accurate with active projects being in here. Like these numbers are related to it has to have all of the tasks have to have an actual complete date. So in order for this, what is considered a complete project? So this is good to know. It's not considered complete if all the tasks don't have completed on them. So that's why I say go to them, make them complete first, then your total, projects in here, this number will be correct. So you want to make sure that those are done. So that's really one of the reasons. And then again, one last thing, if you are ever lose a project, if you guys don't already know this, you've set it to one of those statuses and you can't find it, always go to your views and you can pull up all the projects, inactive projects. So as soon as you set it to one of those statuses that's no longer, it's completed, it's the end or something, and you need to change it back, you're still able to come over here and then again, and update that project field to a different project status to bring it back to life. Then I can move it back to a different stage if I need to. Let me check any more questions. Once you mark it, can you change it back? I think that was it. And is there a good way to close past projects in bulk? Yes. Once these projects in bulk are completed, that's looking at your project listing screen. That was the kind of the same thing, except instead you're looking at the projects in bulk. Go to your all projects, pick up the ones that you need in bulk, update that project field, change the project status all at once. Whoa, why can't I get in there? And that's when you're setting it to completed all at once. So it does let you do quite a few things that you may need to from this area here, whichever one it is. And I think there was change to close status. This is the other one, but sometimes people need to reopen them. This change to close status, this is important that you guys also know, those that are left. This mark as build date, like you want all of the time transactions, even if you're doing fixed fee, to be marked as build. So we're saying we're done with this, and that inactive project status code, these are the inactive statuses. What do you want it to be? So you can change this date on here, and that's a closed status. And then if I ever need to reopen it, I can still come there and open it through that. Does Workamajig offer Gantt chart type reports? Ugh. I mean, yes, we do. Guess you would say they're kind of like Gantt charts. We have it's a good question. It's not one of my stronger points, but I know that most every one of your custom reports, I don't know that we can say that they're Gantt charts, and you have to be pretty good at this, which I'm not. But I will tell you, you can get help with this. In your pulling up any reports, it's under here. They have pivot tables, and you can decide how you want those reports to show. And of course, I don't have any because I wasn't prepared to be talking about this set up, but every one of your custom reports can show, it's not really a Gantt view, but they're like a custom where you can build, how do I want to see this? Do they need rows, columns? Does it need to be a circle? That kind of stuff. I can do that through here. You also might want to talk to your trainer, because a lot of people like to use those PM graphs. No, they're not Gantt charts, but you can make your own graphs in here to what's important to you, which is kind of a fun little area. But I would direct you to go to support@workamajig.com for more details on, kind of like the Gantt chart type thing. Let me see. I think I got all of these now. If I missed anything, I do apologize if I missed any of them. There were a lot of these questions. So thank you very much for coming today. I hope you got something out of this. It is a lot of work. I will say that for all of you that are on here. It's project management does not come easy, but with the effort that you make on it, you will see those results get better and better, and then you be more profitable and you make more money. And that's the whole goal, right? And we all get raises. So thank you again for coming. And let me know if you hit support at workamajig.com if you have further questions regarding this call. Okay, have a good day, guys. Bye-bye.